Hello and welcome to the Tracey Napier Podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. Her name is Cheryl Stelte, and Cheryl is a spiritual coach, master healer, speaker, best-selling author of 3 books, and the CEO and founder of the Star of Divine Light Institute and the Azarius Energy Healing Certification Program. As an energy healing and empowerment expert, Cheryl helps mature women who know they are meant for more but feel blocked gain the clarity they long for and step into their true, authentically powerful selves, enabling them to live their lives with high level purpose. With over 30 years of experience and extensive training in numerous healing modalities, spiritual leadership, coaching, retreat guiding, shamanism, yoga and meditation, Cheryl finds nothing more rewarding than helping women safely break through their subconscious blocks when nothing else has worked as profoundly. Welcome, Cheryl. So happy you're here.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Yeah. Now, I know you are quite the healer and you have a lot going on. I would love to hear your story and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, it's it's so interesting. I was raised Roman Catholic, and so spirituality, I'm going to be 64 this week. Spirituality was not a word that was used when I was a whole lot younger,
Yeah.
and meditation was certainly nothing that anybody I knew considered back then. And I found myself, growing up in sort of the classic dysfunctional family, where emotions were not expressed freely nor were they received well. And that hurts us. It really, so I learned to hold my emotions in, and that sort of thing. But it was when I had left my first husband, who I understand now. I can see him. I thought he was an alcoholic and he was emotionally and psychologically abusive, but now I see all the signs of covert narcissism. And so I left him with 2 young children and found myself just completely lost. Okay, now I feel relieved. That's done. Sort of now what? And I had a very profound transformational experience on the beach one day. I was living on Vancouver Island, and a friend of mine and I were waiting for the tide to go out so we could pick oysters. And she asked if she could practice kinesiology on me, and she was doing some sort of energy work on me. And she was saying all these people, and she was doing this finger testing, and I'm just laying there. And suddenly I felt this huge ball of white light with the most love hovering above me. It was so incredible, and tears just started rolling down my face. And I realized it was my deceased brother who had taken his life. And he had come and had a very strong message for me. I could not hear him. I felt him. I felt all that love. I mean, I'll never forget that as long as I live. And and I'm waiting for her to have the same experience. And then she said, "Oh my gosh, it's your brother and he's here." And I said, "I know." And she could hear him, and she'd never channeled a spirit before ever. So it was a brand new experience for both of us. One which, a week later, I was starting to question and doubt, did that really happen? But I guess that's normal. And his main message to me was to start meditating. And I did. And I developed a way to access my subconscious through those meditations unknowingly, and started healing myself. And in the beginning years, or the beginning year or two, I thought, well, this is just for me, and I thought Oh, and I was recently diagnosed with severe depression and was put on medication, and I was able to get off the medication. And I just thought, I'm going to do this meditating for the rest of my life. I would way rather that than medication. And within a couple of years, people noticed these changes in me, and I had made new friends, and they wanted to learn more about what I was doing. And I started to move into a lot of training with shamanism, and then started exploring other healing modalities, and I'm still learning and growing 32 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I would work with people. I always, I had friends that were in the service industry, therapy, counseling, and that sort of thing. And I always seemed to like to hang out with those people, but I never thought of myself as serving others in that way. And people started to say, I think you're a healer. You should teach this. You should really teach what you know. And I always just said, it's enough to take care of myself. I couldn't imagine doing it with others. But I would still say yes to people when they would ask for my help. And next thing I knew, I was doing it part time. And then I moved into another business and incorporated my spirituality throughout it. And, I couldn't be happier to be of service in this way.
I love that. So you really followed your calling and followed your heart. Now, when you go into meditation, I know meditation for a lot of us is challenging to try and quiet our minds, to really go down deep into our subconscious. How do you do that? Do you have any advice on how to do that?
Yes, I have. So for me, I went to a meditation class and I did this course
Mhm.
actually. And the instructor insisted that we just breathe with our normal breath and focus on the air coming into and leaving the nostrils so you could feel it on your upper lip. So I wanted to be the best student. After all, the message came from my deceased brother, and I trusted it. But my body, my belly started to go into long breaths. And I didn't understand why at the time, but I eventually realized why I started to breathe with long, full breaths. And it was because I grew up in Alberta, and it's very cold up there. And for all the Americans living in North America, in the north, in Wisconsin or Minnesota, Minnesota is known to be cold. And they always say, "Oh, I know what cold is." No, you don't. Until you go further north, it's very, very cold. And when I grew up, we would get 3 or 4 feet of snow in the winters. It's not like that anymore
Wow.
with global warming. But I learned as a child to take long breaths because often when I would walk to my friends or go to school, I had 6 blocks to walk, I would start to shiver. And I was a skinny little thing. And I had a warm coat and snow pants and boots, and my mom would wrap a scarf, twice around my face, around my hood. And she always told us not to breathe with your mouth. If you start to pant and breathe with your mouth open, you could die because your lungs might freeze. So I always knew I had to breathe through my nose. And it just got to be so hard sometimes because it was so darn cold. And I discovered if I took long breaths with my lower abdomen, that my body would relax and I wouldn't be shivering anymore. So I learned to just focus on that when I would get really cold. So, of course, in the meditation, when it started to be uncomfortable because I'm getting thoughts in my mind, just like our monkey mind goes,
Hmm.
and I might start to feel physical sensations, my body naturally, it became a coping mechanism for me, a healthy one. And so I didn't know I was calming my sympathetic nervous system and activating the vagus nerve, which we didn't even know existed back then, etc. And so now we know science has proven that when you breathe with the lower abdomen and you engage your abdominal muscles, it changes the brain function. Because when we're here right now, breathing with our normal breath, we're using the back of the brain, the medulla oblongata. As soon as we engage the abdominal muscles, that breathing function goes to the frontal lobal brain. And so it completely changes how the brain operates, and it frees up the subconscious so we can start to go into that. So very early, so I did that course, and then I thought, and I even brought this up with the instructor. It seems like my body just wants to take long breaths. No, that's not how you do it. She wouldn't have any part of it. And so I started to go into my subconscious into very early years and feeling these, what I now see as repressed emotions. And that really is what trauma is. Science has proven, as you know, Tracey, that trauma is stored in the right side of the brain through physical sensations and emotions, not through linear memories. So when we're doing your typical mindfulness meditation and we're trying to just clear the mind of all thoughts, that doesn't work with this. What works is to go into what you're thinking. Let's say, I mean, if you're thinking about what to make for dinner, you don't need to go into that, but you can pick your number one problem in your life at the moment. And how are you feeling? Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you hurt? And go into that emotion. And that is the entrance to one of the neural pathways that you have. And if you follow that back to when it first began, often in early childhood, even in infancy and even in the womb, yes, in utero, trauma happens in your utero to
Yeah.
way more people than you could possibly imagine. And it's feeling those repressed emotions, which form the subconscious beliefs that we don't even know exist.
Mhm.
And we need our brains so that we can go back there. So the type of healing meditation that I do and I teach is not about clearing all thoughts because your brain will be active, but you'll learn how to go into the right brain, into the subconscious, instead of your left thinking brain. You know, science has proven that trauma is not stored with linear memories. That's a left brain activity. It's always fragmented memories. So you can't use your left brain to heal at the deepest levels.
Wow, that's powerful. You've just taught me a lot of things actually. And so when we have these subconscious blocks, then how do they manifest in our lives? How do they hold us back?
Oh, okay. Well, what happens is when we learn to repress emotions and we're not feeling, we have to because at the age of 2 or 4 or 1 year or 3 months or even in the womb, our left brain is not developed enough to fully understand, to comprehend the way an adult does.
Mhm.
We feel these emotions and we likely didn't have that emotional resource there for us the way we needed. Or we may have been criticized for feeling our emotions. We may have been rejected for expressing our emotions. So we learn to hold them in. And this conditioning is just so pervasive, especially in the Western world. We hold all those emotions in, and then subconscious beliefs are formed from that. And the four main subconscious beliefs that I've discovered over the decades of doing this work are: I'm not enough, I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable, and I don't matter. So we live our lives, and as much as we do the mindset work, which can change, it can help, it helps at more of a superficial level. It can only go so deep, but we're projecting these subconscious beliefs out into the world. And we will attract more of the same emotions, and we don't even know it. And someone can say, wow, did you ever overreact to that? Or you can look at a situation. Why am I feeling so strongly about this? Your linear brain, your left brain might be saying, what's going on with you? What's wrong with you that you're feeling this way? Which may cause you to repress your emotions even more. But
Yeah.
you can't understand because you're not aware of the source. So we live our lives projecting, and it can be something like, I don't matter. If that's the subconscious belief, you may pursue a career or relationships where you feel like you matter so much, but it's not true. So it might all just be superficial, but inside, nothing can fill that void.
So then how do we get unstuck? Like how do we, if we don't remember, at 1 or 2 years old, we don't remember back, we don't usually remember those experiences, we're too young, or of course in the womb. Does it matter if we actually remember the memory that triggered these blocks? Maybe that's my first question.
Great question, because we do not have to remember anything with our linear brain. Not required in the least.
Okay.
It's a matter of feeling the emotions, and you don't have to know why, and what I call following the emotional thread. So there'll always be the top layer of emotion, and it might be anger, but underneath that anger is deep sadness. And underneath that, there could be confusion. Confusion, often small children feel confused in traumatic situations because they can't understand them. So if you ever get down to the layer of confusion, you're so on track. And you follow the emotional thread back to when it first began. So when we develop these trauma neural pathways, it started with one incident, and there's often many of them. And then we keep attracting more of the same thing, and we're living those things in our lives today. So if you look at your life and there's something you really want to change deeply, and all the mindset work in the world and the self-help books, and I've been there, done all that, and even therapy and healing, and you're not getting there, you need to get deeper into the subconscious. So it's with the full breath. Even sexual abuse, even if you wanted to remember the whole thing, start to finish, you're not. You can't. You may remember pieces, but it's not the place to focus. Because if you focus on that fragmented memory, you're going to reinstill the emotions, and you can re-traumatize yourself without the full breath. So it's important to continue to breathe fully, and you will breathe through the layers of emotions, and that's accessing the trauma. So I explain it this way. It's what I call the ACE method. A is for access. So you have to be willing, number one, and you need to have a place to start. And the place to start is any problem in your life. Pick the biggest one or the smallest one. How much change do you want? If you want a little change, go with the smallest one. If you're serious and you want big change, go with your biggest problem and how do you feel? And you follow that. And often people will start to feel physical pain, discomfort, heat, cold, tingling. That's where the body has stored it. And you don't necessarily have to focus there. I always encourage to focus on the root chakra, but you access that, and then to clear it, it's just breathing through it. If you can just stick with it, it's uncomfortable. I will not pretend it isn't. It's very uncomfortable to feel those emotions, and it's temporary because they will dissipate. You may be feeling um, grief and loss at a scale of 10, on a scale of 1 to 10, but it will decrease, decrease, decrease. And then you can go to the deeper and deeper layers. And that helps you clear that energy that's stuck in there. And then you will discover more of your true self. And you can reparent yourself in there and give yourself all that love that you've needed. Become the emotional resource that you never had. That's what you're here to do. And then you can empower yourselves once you discover the truth of your being. It's sort of like your truth is buried and it's covered up with all this pain. And once you release the pain, you can access that truth. To me, there's no greater way to uncover it. And so you become the person you can't imagine. Fears will just fall away. I went through a period of my life. I was terrified of snakes my whole life. I mean, terrified. And then all of a sudden, one day, I saw this giant Burmese albino python at the zoo. And it was 200 pounds, and I just wanted to hold it and even kiss it. I couldn't believe it. And my fear of snakes has completely vanished. It's like, where did it go? So you never know who you're going to become.
Right.
I'm a snake lover. So strange.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. You turn around and you're different, and you'll say, whoa, I had this conversation with so and so, and I would have never said these things in the past. And so you turn around and you're different, and you become more and more empowered.
I love that. And I love how you explained, if you kind of feeling and releasing all this pain to get to the truth really of who you are, like the root of who you are. I love that visual for me. Now, I know there's probably going to be people wondering, how long does this process take? Is it one time of doing this breath work and it's kind of one and done? Or how does that work?
Um, so how long does it take? It takes as long as you want it to. It takes as long as you want it to take, and it takes forever. And so let me explain this. So I work with people, number one, never in a group to begin with, always one-on-one. And I'm just so adamant about that. I've done the groups and all of that. I like to go deep, and I like to give people the biggest bang for their buck. And I've lived my life that way. I like to get the biggest bang. How am I going to get the most out of this? So I work with people for a shorter period of time so I can teach them how to do it well. And then they're off to the races. And so for me, I'm not finished. And what happens is you do a certain amount of healing, and you create significant change in your life. You get clarity on where you're going, and you start to experience success in different ways, often in multiple different ways. And years later, you will always reach a plateau where you get to a certain level, and then it's time to heal the deeper layers. So it's better to just have sort of a maintenance program
Mhm.
ongoingly, so that you're always evolving, you're always becoming more empowered, and to understand that life will always throw us new challenges. And it's about accepting those challenges as an opportunity to grow. Life is not meant to be easy and a piece of cake. It's not. We are here to grow and evolve, and that's where we get the greatest satisfaction.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I share often on my social media channels. Is our souls are here to learn and evolve and grow. So not everything's going to be easy. So when we have when we experience life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's all a learning experience. And so we have to ask ourselves, well, what did I learn from this? So
Exactly, exactly. And to continue to have that attitude.
yeah, yeah, it's a lifelong journey, right?
Right. That's right.
Wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that you think the listeners would like to know,
Well, what I'd like to offer is a link to some powerful meditations so that you can start to do this at home. And the first two are about really learning the full breath so that you learn to access your subconscious. And then my most listened to meditation, which is creating safety and stability in the root chakra, because that is fundamental. You need to have a solid foundation. And so many of us, most of us, don't. It's why we have the problems we do. And I
Mhm.
want you to know, if you can just even close your eyes for a moment and put your hand on your heart and hear my words. You're powerful beyond what you could ever imagine.
Thank you for that. I think a lot of us don't recognize how powerful we really are. So thank you. If anyone wanted to reach out to you and connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way, you can find me on Instagram, stelt.cheryl. You can find me on LinkedIn. Go to my website. You'll find there's a lot of resources on there for you. A copy of my ACE method, and it's starofdivinelight.com, starofdivinelight.com. Or if you just know you want to talk with me, you can just enter callwithcheryl.com.
Perfect. I'll put all those links in the show notes as well. Well, thank you for coming on to my show. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Tracey. I'm just honored that you had me.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, until next time, many blessings.